She didn't remember how she found it. Not really. The house was just there. It stood alone, past the last row of pine trees, at the end of a forgotten road. Old, but not broken. Quiet, but not empty. Like it had been waiting. The rain had started that morning. A soft, steady rhythm, the kind that doesn't demand an umbrella, just a slower pace. She walked without thinking. Her boots met puddles without concern. It had been that kind of week. That kind of month. The forest, somehow, made it all quieter. Each step softened by wet moss. Each breath pulled deeper into her chest. It felt like the trees were guiding her. And then, there it was. The house had ivy growing up one side. A stone chimney. Wooden windows with small panes, some fogged from the inside. It didn't look abandoned. It looked ready. She stood at the gate for a while. No one came. No dog barked. No voice asked why she was there. Just rain, tapping on leaves, rooftops, the top of her head. A slow, patient invitation. So she entered. The front door creaked, but only a little. Inside, warm. Not heat, no. But something deeper. A sense of belonging. Of being expected. The entryway smelled of cedar and thyme. Dust motes floated in the stillness, moving gently with her steps. On the wall, a row of coats. One in particular caught her eye, dark blue wool, with buttons shaped like shells. She had one like it, years ago. In the living room, there was a fireplace, unlit, but clean. A kettle sat on the stove in the kitchen, as though someone had just made tea. And near the window, a table with a single chair. And a journal, open. Its pages full of handwriting that looked oddly familiar. She didn't read it. Not yet. Instead, she walked up the stairs, her hand on the old wooden railing. The second floor smelled of lavender. There were two doors. One was closed, the other creaked open to a room full of quiet light. A bed made with care. A window cracked just slightly, letting in the smell of rain-soaked trees. On the windowsill, a small music box. She turned the key once. And a melody, soft, distant, began to play. It was the tune her grandmother used to hum, late at night, when the world felt too heavy for dreams. Her eyes filled, slowly. Not with sadness. Just release. She sat on the edge of the bed, letting the music and rain wrap around her like a blanket. And then she spoke, not to anyone in particular. How long have you been waiting for me? No answer came. But the wind shifted. And the house sighed. Like it was finally at peace. The rain didn't stop. But inside, it became a sound she welcomed. Like breath. Like the house itself was breathing, with her. She eventually stood, drawn again to the hallway. To the closed door. It didn't resist her. The hinges let it open slowly, as if the room behind it had been asleep. Inside, a study. Dark wood shelves from floor to ceiling, filled with books whose titles were worn with time. A large armchair near the window, and beside it, a low table with a cup, half full, still warm. She hesitated, but only for a second, then sat. The chair wrapped around her like memory. Soft, familiar. Her fingers ran along the armrest and found a small scratch. Like an old scar in the wood. Shaped like a star. She had carved a star just like that when she was 10, in her grandfather's cabin, on a rainy summer night. She closed her eyes. And the house began to remember with her. Not with visions, not with magic, but with scent and space, texture and silence, the kind of remembering that lives in the bones of places. She whispered names she hadn't spoken aloud in years, and the house didn't flinch. It accepted them, held them. Later, maybe minutes, maybe hours, she returned downstairs. The journal on the table hadn't moved. She opened it. The handwriting was her own. Not perfectly, but close enough. Page after page of thoughts she'd never written, but somehow had thought. The rain isn't lonely. It just wants to slow everything down. You don't have to be useful all the time. Sometimes, breathing is enough. I hope she comes back here one day. I hope she remembers. She read until her eyes grew heavy. Then curled on the couch, wrapped in the blue coat from the wall. The rain kept falling, and the house kept breathing. She didn't ask what would happen next. She didn't need to. This was not a place to understand. It was a place to be. And finally, she woke in the early gray. Not startled, just slowly. As if the morning had gently touched her shoulder and whispered, "It's time." The rain was still falling. But lighter now. Almost playful. Like it, too, had rested. The house had changed in the night. Not in shape, but in feel. It no longer held the weight of waiting. It had exhaled. And so had she. She moved through the rooms once more, the kitchen, the hall, the quiet corners where memory hung like wind chimes. In the back, past a narrow door she hadn't noticed before, was a tiny sunroom. Glass panes carved at the edges. And in the center, a small wooden desk with a blank notebook. This time, it was her turn to write. She sat down, opened the cover, and let the pen move. Dear you. If you are reading this, it means you found it, the space between remembering and forgetting. The pause where everything soft lives. This house isn't magic, but it listens. And it waits. Like we all do, for ourselves to come home. She smiled. Closed the notebook. Left it there. She didn't lock the door behind her. Didn't need to. The house knew when to open, and when to rest. Outside, the forest greeted her again. The trees shimmered with raindrops, leaves whispering in a tongue older than words. She walked away slowly, not with sadness, but with something quieter. The knowing that whenever she needed to return, the house would be there. Not where it was, but when. Waiting. Like all the gentlest places do.